You are listening to Word for a Third, Season 2, Episode 1, Inspiring People of Nashville. Featured guest Stella Prince, singer-songwriter. Our sponsor today is Mojo's Tacos, located in the factory in Franklin, Tennessee, and Neville Associates. Hi, my name is Catherine Poole, and you are listening to Word for a Third. Today's guest is Stella Prince, and we are so excited to have this young, up-and-coming artist in our studio today. Hi, Stella.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
It's wonderful to have you here. I'm wondering where you are right now in the world.
Yes, so I'm in Woodstock, New York. I grew up here and it's incredibly special to me. I'm actually going to be moving to Nashville full time at the first of the year. So I'm kind of just soaking up the last few months of being here in my childhood home.
Woodstock, New York is a
Yeah,
beautiful place. I have friends near there. I understand it's probably like a bittersweet
it is.
transition, but remember, you can always visit home.
Exactly. It's so true. I've been here for 18 years in the same house since the day I was born. It's kind of an amazing feeling. It's weird going somewhere else, but it just feels like it's time. Like it's the right move. It's incredibly exciting and my parents are coming with me, so it just feels like it's good.
Oh, excellent. So you're
Yeah.
all moving together?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that
Yeah,
is so cool, Stella. I didn't realize that. That's an exciting thing for your whole family
it
and a
is.
new adventure. There are a lot of people from New York and even like
Yes.
upstate New York here in Nashville.
Literally everyone that I've met in Nashville, they either have a friend or a family member from New York or New England or New Jersey. Like everyone is from. It's so
It's
funny.
very strange how many of
Yeah.
us transplant here. I think it's because we're very creative people. We're very creative people in the New England area.
Yes.
And of course, Nashville is very creative, not just in the music sense.
Hmm.
So, what drew you originally to the country scene? Because I
Yeah.
know that you had a radio program at the age of 12 that focused on 1930s and 40s
Yeah.
music, which is pretty
Yes.
interesting for a 12-year-old.
It is. Parents are not musicians at all, but they have a huge appreciation for music, and they had tons of CDs and tons of records all over the house. So I grew up listening to literally every genre. There was old country, which I loved, like Kitty Wells and Patsy Cline. And then there was big band. My grandfather loved it, and I just heard it all the time. It was like the music that my parents played at parties. So it was like Benny Goodman and Artie Shaw and all of that. So I just grew up listening to it. Pretty much every genre I got from my parents' CD collection.
That's really
Yeah,
exciting and
yeah,
also really interesting that
yeah,
they exposed you to so many
yeah,
different types of music,
yeah.
which is apparent in your own music.
Mm,
It's very clear that you have different types of influences, which gives
mm,
you a very unique
yeah.
edge as a musician and singer songwriter
Mm,
because the influences are very clear in your music. I
yeah,
would literally say that there's influence from the 1930s and 40s
yeah,
in your music.
yeah.
You have a beautiful soprano voice. There are sopranos, female sopranos in country music, but they're few and far between.
Yeah.
To me, you sound kind of like a very young
Mm,
Dolly Parton combined with
yeah.
Alison Krauss,
Mm-hmm.
but then you have a sound of, I would say, BB Daniels, who was a singer in the 1930s,
Okay.
and Yvonne Printemps, who was a French
Mm.
singer from the
Mm.
30s. I listened
Yeah.
to your new single, which I'm lucky
No,
I get
is
to
there
hear it. I get to hear it first. One of the people who gets to hear it first. I was listening and I was trying to figure out who it was you sounded like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
tell me, is there someone who has influenced your vocal styling and also your songwriting?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many people. I think like Contemporary wise, Emmylou Harris and Dolly Parton are probably my two favorites. And my three like favorite singers in the world is probably Karen Carpenter, Judy Garland, and Patsy Cline. I think those are
I
my three
knew
favorite
you were an
singers.
old soul. You're listening to both of my generation's listening,
I
you know.
love them. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
them.
You have a very, in some ways, a very contemporary style, but in some
Hmm.
ways it is old school.
Thank you. Yeah, I think some of the best singers really take stuff from the past and make it new again. I feel like that's something that I really try to do. Take my idols and take what I can from them, but then make it my own.
You're definitely doing it. Nashville is going to be really excited to hear you because you're bringing something new to the table. And it's not often that we get to say that. There are lots of new artists,
Yeah.
but new styling and a new approach is
Mm.
something unique and exciting.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be in Nashville. I'm like counting the days literally.
I can understand that. I did the
Yeah,
same thing when I was headed here. You graduated high school at 15.
I
You
did.
received your associate's degree at 16,
I
right?
did.
And what did you receive your associate's degree in?
Liberal arts. So it was like the degree that you were able to get the most elective. So I just took all music courses and it worked out really well.
Yes, I'm sure it did because you're
Yeah.
so ahead of the game. Your first single, Crying on a Saturday Night,
Yeah.
it was the most added radio song in March of this year to folk radio. We charted on the Americana
Mhm.
singles chart as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
Now, did you do this on your own or
No, so I was lucky enough, and I'm still working with him, and my next single is going to radio today with this same guy. So his name is Art Minius, and he is a legendary folk promoter. He's been around for decades and decades, just working with some incredible folk singers. I met him through my management, and he's just been an amazing person to work with, just incredible. I ended up meeting him I think a year ago, actually. It was like last October. It was the first person my manager introduced me to. And we met on Zoom, and he was just such a great person, so supportive and so nice. And it's been really exciting. I released my debut EP this summer through him called 18, and it ended up charting on the Americana charts and the Folk Alliance official folk charts and the alternative country charts, which I didn't even know existed. Um,
Isn't it
so
great when you find out though?
yeah. No, I had no idea. And yeah, it was great though. It was great.
And 18 charted at 46.
Yeah, it was exciting. He kind of mentioned to me when I released Crying on a Saturday Night before 18, it's pretty hard to get on the folk chart, especially if it's not an album. So that's why we did the EP. Apparently, I guess DJs are more inclined to play like EPs and albums rather than a single. Yeah.
Well, you've definitely learned a lot. It sounds to
Yes.
me like your management and producer, everybody's talking to you so
Yeah.
that you really understand how the business works. And that's a very big deal for any artist.
Yeah, I think it's so important to know what the business aspect of it is rather than just do the music making because you need to know.
And you really are, even though you have management, you really are your own business
Yes.
manager first. And when you're as young as you are, also your parents, I hope,
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
helping with that. And that's good for all
Exactly.
artists to
Yeah.
know because you really have to be working all the time in the
Yeah.
business aspect as well.
Yeah, and you really have to work for yourself and pretend that nobody's working for you. Everyone says that you cannot wait around for someone else to do it for you. You just have to do it on your own. And then people are inclined to help you. But it's not until you've worked and got it on your own that people are ready to work with you. I think that's one of the hardest things is trying to do it all yourself.
That's a really good point. If you are willing to put in the work, then people
Yeah,
are interested.
exactly.
And it's obvious that you have. I checked out your website and you've made a bunch of videos. You've been really proactive about your own music promotion, it seems.
Definitely. And I think self promotion is one of the hardest things ever to do, especially as an artist. But I think it also gets you the most because I think people are really inclined to listen to you when it's coming from you specifically and not just someone else. Like like when I first started building my social media fan base, it was literally reaching out and DMing new followers and saying, "Hi, my new music video came out. Can you take a listen?" That kind of like really dirty, hard, like it took hours and hours and hours. And that's how you have to start.
That's
You
how
know?
you have to start. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's frustrating because it
Yes.
takes away from the time you would be writing or singing.
Exactly.
But you realize that if you don't do that, you're not going to
Yeah.
have an audience to
No.
start.
No.
Do you know how many followers you have now?
Yeah, it's different on every platform. I have around 50,000 total together. It's like 17,000 on Instagram, I think 13,000 Facebook, like various, I think 10,000 on Spotify. So it's
I
kind of like
want to tell you
nicely
something
divided.
exciting. I want to tell you something exciting.
Ooh,
I
yeah.
think you actually have 70,000 now.
Do I?
I
Oh my gosh.
do. I think that that's what I saw. So the numbers
Ooh,
are climbing.
I have to check.
Without giving it away, would you please tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about your new single, which you said it's hitting radio today?
It's
I
gonna
thought
be,
you said
yeah,
November 4th.
they're available to pre-add today. My promoter's sending it to all the stations today. And then it comes out, yeah, next Friday on streaming platform. I've announced a single already.
It's called Closing Doors, and
Yeah,
you recorded it with
yes.
Professor Louie from the band, which
Exactly.
you tell us about the
Yeah.
single and also about recording with Professor Louie.
Yes. So Professor Louis, I ended up meeting him through kind of a random contact that lives like in London, and that kind of figures because we live 20 minutes
I
from
know
each
I
other,
was
but it
going
had
to
to
say
be
you live in like
yeah,
the same
yeah,
area.
but it had to be someone that lives like 3,000 miles away that introduced us. But yeah, we met in like April of this year, and I was about to head off on a tour of the UK and Ireland this summer. And so he was like, "We'll just stay in touch." And it wasn't until I guess mid-August when I came back and I was like, "I want to record. I really want to do this. I've never actually recorded with professional live musicians before. I want this to be my first time working with you." He was incredibly warm and incredibly inviting, invited me to his studio in Woodstock, and we recorded the song in like 3 hours. And this was my first time ever recording a song with a live drummer, a live bassist, a live electric guitarist, and he played piano. And then I sang and played my acoustic guitar. It was just so different, you know, there was no click track, there was no metronome. We all kind of just felt the pulse ourselves and played it all together at once. It wasn't all like separate tracks. It just felt like so good. It just felt so right.
It's
I
really different
loved
working with
it.
sessions musicians.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I loved it way more than just doing it myself or doing separate tracks. It was such an amazing experience. I feel like the song, it really talks about what it's like to face rejection. That can be on many different levels. You know, it can be coming from a singer-songwriter's point of view. There's thousands of musicians in Nashville that face rejection all the time, and I'm one of them, of course. And it's really hard when you're chasing your dreams and people say no. It feels like, you know, a door is closing in your face. It's a really hard thing to go through. I think for me, where the inspiration for the song came. It's called Closing Doors. And for other people, you know, I think it can have different various versions of what people think the song means to them. It could be somebody saying goodbye, it could be somebody betraying them, something at work that happened that was really disappointing. So it's kind of just a general idea of disappointment.
It's really beautifully written, and I'm saying this in a good way. It's simple, like
Yeah.
simple lyrics, okay?
Yes.
But they speak to
Hmm.
everyone and they're beautifully strung together. It's interesting. There's sort of an old soul feel and then this new
Yeah.
almost pop, but
Mm.
not quite
Right.
vibe to it. One part that really spoke to me is
Yeah.
I'm going to read this, looking at it, so I say
Sure.
your lyrics correctly, but you said that I was the one. You must have just been having fun. Now it feels like a hit and run. We've both lost and no one's won.
Hmm.
The way that you structured that, it's just a beautiful little sort of
Thank
hook
you.
line. And it's not your hook for the song, but it's like this beautiful
Right.
hook line. And so I was listening to it and I was thinking, wow, that really goes right to the heart of so
Mm.
many situations. And you've
Yeah.
just said this. It speaks to people on different levels, whether it's a singer-songwriter or someone about every relationship they've ever had has never
Right.
worked out, and they've
Right.
been looking for love, and they have a heart that's open.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gorgeous. Your
Well, thank you.
phrasing is also incredible. You have
Thank you.
you have a really no, you really have a different way of phrasing from a lot of artists.
It's funny that you say that, and I appreciate you saying that in a good way because I've had a lot of co-writes where they're like, "This is amazing, but I cannot figure out what you're doing." And so many people have said that, like, "What are you doing? Like, I cannot figure out this phrasing at all. I've never seen this before."
Are you a poet? Did you write poetry growing
I
up?
did. Yeah.
Okay, because I'm a singer-songwriter too, and
Yeah.
I write everything, and I'm a
Yeah.
poet. And I believe that those of us who started out writing poetry,
Hmm.
but also have like these extensive music
Yeah.
backgrounds,
Yeah.
our phrasing is different. And it brings a different
Exactly.
game to the table.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
going to be good for you.
I hope so.
And is your goal to reach people of all ages?
Yes, I think that is probably the most important thing. It's like I feel like now 60 and up have their own kind of group of musicians that they listen to. Teenagers have their own group, millennials have their own group. I want to speak to everyone, and I know it's a really hard thing to accomplish, but there's a way to make songs really specific but also general, really emotional, but everyone can relate in their own way. And I really want to be able to do that. So I'm really hoping that I can make every generation relate to my songs. Yeah.
You're off on the right track. And
Thank you.
pun intended and not intended, off on the right track because you've combined so many elements and you have
Yeah.
such a rich background.
Thank
And
you.
yay for your parents for exposing you to all of that.
Yeah.
Did you always
Exactly.
know you wanted to be a singer-songwriter?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I knew from the time I was literally 2. It was just something that was going to be my future, and I knew it, and my parents knew it, and my grandparents knew it. It was just kind of a given, weirdly. It was something that my parents didn't push at all. It was like totally my idea, and I think I give them credit for that. Like that was so important for me to come to them and say, "I want voice lessons. I want piano lessons." They listened. That's so important to have that.
Are you an only child?
I am.
You are. I love this because they really paid attention to who you
Yes.
were,
Yes.
and what a gift for you. There is a line in Closing Doors that we were talking about your vocal phrasing,
Yeah.
and it's so interesting. I love the line and vocal phrasing because no one's heart is ever open wide enough for me to go in like a closing door. Did you come up with that phrasing yourself?
Every release I've done has been completely self-written. I've never done a co-written song that I've released. I love co-writing, of course, but I think there's something really special about just writing it completely on your own. For Closing Doors, I just kind of wrote it one day, and I was in Ireland on tour this summer. I was staying at a little B&B with my parents, and it was in the little town of Ballycotton, which is on the water, and it is so beautiful. And the bed and breakfast, it was like 100 euros. It was like this tiny, tiny little place, family owned, beautiful scones for breakfast, just like the most glorious place. And they were located literally in a pasture of cows. It was like their yard was a pasture of cows. The next day after we arrived, we just spent like the whole day sitting outside. It was a beautiful day sitting in this beautiful nature. And I started singing, and I was songwriting outside, and I was working on Closing Doors, and I wrote the whole chorus outside in like 15 minutes in Ireland. And as I was singing it, all the cows came right up to me and just sat there and listened to the whole thing. Oh, incredible moment. I mean, it was just mind blowing. It's something I'll never forget. It was literally like 30 cows, and they were silent, and they just came right next to me and just sat and listened. And it was amazing.
That's talking to your music
There you
too.
go.
I,
Yeah.
I'm laughing a little bit because I
Yeah.
actually sometimes gauge my songwriting on how my cats respond.
This is true. Yeah. I totally get it.
What a
Yeah.
wonderful story, though.
Yeah.
What a
It was
wonderful
amazing.
experience
It
that
was.
you will never forget.
No.
Your style is described as acoustic country folk pop. I have a friend who is a very stellar musician,
Yeah.
and he describes his music as grass rock. And what he means is like bluegrass.
Yeah, I get that.
So I just want to ask, how would you explain
Yes.
that genre?
So that was written by someone that kind of just came up with that. I didn't come up with that, although I love it. I ended up meeting with the team at NSAI, which is Nashville Songwriters Association in Nashville, when I was there last week. And they were like, well, what is your genre? And I was like, well, I haven't really told anyone this before, but this is honestly how I feel. I feel like it's a mix of multiple genres that leads to a new genre because I can't pick one and it's different than many genres. It's a mix of Americana, a mix of country, a mix of folk, all together into one different thing. That's the best I can explain it.
Excellent. I
Yeah.
think that's a beautiful explanation.
A little original, but
Well, and sometimes things are written for and about us that
yeah.
we're like, okay, I kind of get it, but now I have to figure out how to explain it. So I think you explained that very well.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. So I have the Nashville Seven.
Ooh, I love that.
What is your favorite venue in Nashville?
Grand Ole Opry.
What is your favorite food that you think is local to Nashville or that you first had in Nashville?
Oh, that's really hard. I'm gonna go with pancakes from the Pancake Pantry.
What is your favorite tourist attraction in Nashville?
The Country Music Hall of Fame.
What is your favorite saying, Nashville saying?
Don't get above your raisin.
Ooh, don't
I
get
like that one.
above your raisin.
That came from the Ken Burns country music documentary, and I love that saying.
I've seen that and I don't
Yeah,
remember that. That's great.
it's a great saying.
My favorite thing that we say here in Nashville, and it's funny because I'm a writer and editor, and my mother
Yeah.
was my English teacher, and
Oh, okay.
but it's so funny. I like to say all y'all, even though it's
Oh, I
completely
love that.
grammatically
All
wrong.
y'all. That's a
All
great.
y'all. If you were to meet one artist in Nashville, one
Yeah.
artist that you've never met before,
Mm.
who would it be, and what would be the question you would most want to ask them?
That's a great question. Think it would be um Emmylou Harris, and I think I would ask her um who was the her favorite person that she's ever met in her life and how did it impact her? Because I think that she would impact me that way.
On that note, you reminded me of a question.
I have kind of a few. The first person that I ever worked with was this woman named Charisse Boltori. I'm not sure if you know her.
I know
Oh, you
Sheree.
do?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
and I've actually interviewed her. She's
Um,
wonderful.
she's
Yeah.
incredible. When I was 14, she introduced me to my manager. She has been amazing and one of the first people I really met in Nashville. So she was definitely my first mentor ever. And then my manager now, Neil Spielberg. I think he's definitely my mentor currently.
Stella Prince, how would you like new audience members to connect with you and learn about your music?
So it's pretty simple. My username is Stella Prince Music on every platform, stellaprincemusic.com. Just Google me and it'll all come up. And I'm very excited to talk with any new fans and connect with them.
Stella, it's been such a joy interviewing
Thank you.
you today. I
It's so
really
nice to
enjoyed
meet you.
meeting you. It was great to meet you, and I'm
Yes.
so excited to see what you do.
Thank you so much. It was great talking with you.
For more information about today's featured guest, Stella Prince, please visit www.stellaprincemusic.com. You have been listening to Word for a Third, Season 2, Episode 1, produced and directed by K.W. Poole and M. Rowe Network. All rights reserved. Copyright 2022. M. Rowe Network. Find your inspiration. Find your word.